Welcome back to the Mac, probably my personal favorite of the group of 6. If nothing else, for the Tuesday night Maction, the Maccoon, and for some goddamn reason, the Gray Field Turf. No, you're not going to find a playoff contender in here, but you don't need to win a national title to prove you're the best. You only need to survive. Enjoy the preview, but real quick, I need to pay my bills, so hang tight.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
Today's video is proudly sponsored by PrizePicks, America's #1 sports picks app. And since we're talking about the Mac, which was built on Tuesday night Maction, 38-degree rain, half-empty stadiums, and teams somehow ruining each other's seasons for absolutely no reason, PrizePicks fits right in. It's not just another sports betting app. PrizePicks is a daily fantasy sports app, and getting started is stupid simple. Pick more or less on a few players and build your own lineup. You can pick individual stats like yards, points, strikeouts, touchdowns, and more. You can also make team picks, including who wins and what the point spread might look like. And if you're trying to figure out who's going to actually win a Mac game, good fucking luck. This is a conference where a team can look like absolute dog shit on Saturday, then turn around 3 days later and play like 2001 Miami because the game is on ESPN2 at 7:30 in the evening on a Tuesday. You can even pick the total points scored in the game, which honestly might be your best option with both. You can even pick the total points scored in the game, which honestly might be your best option when both teams decide the forward pass is optional and special teams is the only functioning unit on the field. For me, that's what makes PrizePicks fun. I'm already watching the games, digging through stats, making predictions like I somehow understand what the hell is happening with the Mac. I might as well build a lineup around it and get some confidence in me. So much confidence, I bet on the Bengals to win the fucking Super Bowl. No, I'm not shutting up about it. PrizePicks is now available in most of the United States, including California, Florida, and Texas. And right now, you can play your first $5 lineup and get $150 in bonus lineups if you win. PrizePicks has changed up their offer, so lock in, build in that first lineup, and win the damn thing. Use code HMA when you sign up to get $150 in bonus lineups if you win your first $5 or more lineup. Click the link in the description and join America's #1 sports picks app, PrizePicks. And as always, play responsibly.
We now join our regularly scheduled programming already in progress.
While I would love to shit on Akron forever and a day like I usually do, I figured for the preview for this season it'll be better if I get one of their own to talk about them for a few minutes. Duck, take it away.
Hey everybody, this is Casey from the Red River Duckwind All Sports Network, and I'm very thrilled to be a special guest on this video. If I have one thing to say to the Akron Zips, it's this: no more fucking around. You were gifted a waiver from the NCAA back in March that will grant you postseason eligibility this year. And you even had suites inside your cracking 20-year-old stadium that actually sold out for the first time ever. And it's all because you decided to give one lucky fan out of 5 the opportunity to draw up one play as offensive coordinator. So wow, you're actually listening to the fans. About time you did something like that. And Akron's going to have so much talent with them at running back, with Jordan Gant, who's coming off a 1,000-yard season, as well as 6 touchdowns. And whoever wins the starting quarterback job between Braden Rago and Reese Poffenbarger is going to have strong O-line talent that will be protecting them with left guard Amari Archer. Now, the problem is the Zips were hit very, very hard by the transfer portal on both sides of the ball. The O-line is the unit with the most question marks, with only 2 returning starters. So we'll have to see if Amari Archer can actually boost the young talent. And the linebacker core had 5 key players go. And so guys like Ami Branch will have to provide stability. So Zips, if there's one thing I should tell you, here's this: go to class and sit in the front row. Thank you to my band director up at Akron for providing that statement, by the way.
Mike Urimovich enters year 2 after a 4-8 debut, and if there's one thing Ball State needed this offseason, it was an offense that doesn't treat protecting the quarterback like it's a fucking suggestion. The Cardinals clearly want to upgrade the passing game. Donovan Hamilton is back, and they brought in FAU transfer Jabari Smith. who will hopefully give this receiving core a little more juice. At quarterback, don't be surprised if they stick with the 2-quarterback system he's been using since he was at Butler. Keldrick Luster from Texas State and Tyler Mizzle from Concord will battle it out for the right to die 7 yards behind the line of scrimmage. Why do I say that? The O-line gave up 49 sacks last year. 49! At some point, this stopped being an offensive line and became a hole in the side of a sinking ship. Somehow, they returned 3 starters, which is either a good thing because of experience or horrifying because they were there for all 49 goddamn sacks. Not to mention losing Kiel Kelly doesn't exactly help the ground game either. This offensive line doesn't take a massive leap forward. It really won't matter who's taking snaps because they'll be chewing on grass as well as their own tongues by halftime. Remember, it's not prom, boys. It's football. You don't escort the fucking linebackers right to the quarterback, goddammit! Eddie George is heading into his second season after going 4-8, and if year one taught him anything, it's that this ain't fucking Tennessee State anymore. Turns out rebuilding an FBS football program is a little harder than playing for one. The quarterback room is a damn mess. Bowling Green has 4 guys that could possibly win the job, with Jay Castanen, the transfer from Division II Assumption, looking like he's going to be the favorite. On the bright side, whoever the quarterback will be is going to be armed to the teeth in the backfield. The running back room will have Austin Dendy bring in the power, Nakai Amakri will bring the speed, and they added FCS transfer Michael Murray after a nearly 800-yard season. Even better, at least defensively, the front 4 should be the strength of this team. Transfers Selah Brown from Louisville and Cade Custis from Central Michigan will add some much-needed size and depth to the front. Here's the problem. Who exactly is the quarterback throwing to? Bowling Green lost their top 6 wide receivers from last season. 6. That's not rebuilding, that's building a house and then setting it on fire. Not to mention that, like Danica Patrick, Bowling Green did not know how to win late in the games. Not to mention the Falcons mainly missed bowl season last year after grasping defeat from the jaws of victory after forgetting games are 60 minutes long. Not once, not twice, but 3 goddamn times. With executions being scheduled against Nebraska, Iowa State, and then a tough conference opener against Miami, you might as well skip watching in September. Unfortunately, Pudge and his owner have also graduated, so there's not even a goddamn rally cat to motivate your asses anymore. The objective this year is simply to survive that first month in one piece. Sure, the Falcons have talent, they just have about as much margin for error as a guy trying to juggle chainsaws on a fucking pogo stick.
Buffalo Bulls.
That is
not
incredible.
The Bills, the Bulls.
Buffalo is probably one of the toughest teams in this conference to figure out. On one hand, they got some pieces. On the other, they also have a couple dozen question marks. Let's start with the strength of the team. The secondary is legitimately one of the best in the MAC. Keontez Bradley and Kobe Blackwell return at corner after combining for 11 pass breakups, while Miles Greer gives them a veteran presence at safety. Up front, Cornell Evans returns after playing in every game last season, and he is expected to become the leader of the defensive line. That's enough talent on defense to keep the Bulls in a lot of games. But who's scoring the points? Buffalo had to replace a lot of production, and the quarterback battle between Mason Cumbie and Elijah Holmes and Jason Wright is something that head coach Pete Lambeau cannot afford to fuck up. Either one of them steps up and stands out, or we're going to be shuffling quarterbacks around until October. With Western Michigan, Miami, Ohio, Toledo, and Central Michigan on the schedule, you ain't getting any goddamn handouts. This feels like it'll be another season where the Bulls are hanging around 500. Frankly, anything above 500 and the folding tables will be getting broken in droves. Getting curb stomped 34-7 by a bunch of drama kids in the Game Above Sports Bowl wasn't exactly the ending they were hoping for last year, but there's still plenty to like going into 2026. Coach Drinkall wants to run the football, and having Angel Flores back makes that a whole lot easier. The quarterback actually led the team in rushing before an injury knocked him out for the final 4 regular season games. If they can stay healthy, this offense immediately becomes much more dangerous. They don't have to rest on quarterback run game, however, as they've got one of the better wide receiver tandems in the conference. Langston Lewis and Tommy McIntosh combined for 74 catches and 1,000 yards receiving last year, and are back for more. Then you have 4 starters returning on the offensive line. That continuity up front should make this one of the better rushing attacks in the MAC. However, it ain't all sunshine and rainbows. The defense lost a lot. Somebody's going to have to emerge in a hurry, or this defense could spend Saturdays getting dragged up and down the field. And special teams? That's a complete unknown. They're still figuring out who the fuck the kicker is. Not to mention, both returner jobs are wide open. To sum it up, this team has enough firepower to make some noise in the MAC so long as Flores stays off the injury list. Now, if your defense can hold up your end of the deal, that would be great. Scoring 30 points per game is all well and good, unless your defense shits themselves and gives up 31. How Chris Creighton has survived 12 years at Eastern Michigan completely baffles me. But at this point, he might as well be a part of that ugly-ass stadium alongside the fucking Macoon. That said, the Eagles do have a pretty decent quarterback returning in Noah Kim, who led the conference in passing last season with 2,817 yards and 18 touchdowns. He's also getting back one of his favorite targets, Nick Devereaux, who hauled in 34 catches, 510 yards, and 7 touchdowns. You know what quarterbacks really enjoy, though? Not getting murdered. The transfer portal gutted the offensive line, forcing Eastern Michigan to basically rebuild the entire unit from scratch. And that's a pretty big issue when your best player is the motherfucker standing behind those 5 dudes. The running back room also has more questions than answers. They're hoping transfers like Braden Bennett can stabilize things, but again, the line has to be there to block. On the other side of the ball, it's still a mystery box. However, the secondary is where I say the Eagles have truly got it made. Safeties Bryce Llewellyn and Jason Marshall headline a veteran group that also includes corners Javion Norman, Caleb Coley, and Caleb Dobbs. The problem is that only one starter returns outside the defensive backfield. Somebody has to make some shit happen on the front 7, because if they don't, opposing offenses are going to spend all season treating the line of scrimmage like a goddamn Chinese buffet. There are enough pieces here for Eastern Michigan to make some noise. Noah Kim can sling it, the receivers are solid, and the secondary should keep them in games. But if that offensive line falls apart, Noah's going to be spending so much time on his back, he'll start recognizing cloud formations.
It's me again. Hi. Now listen, I know I'm an Akron alum, and there's nothing more that I'd like to see than you guys not winning. But I'm not blind to see what you guys have going for you, as you have quarterback Drew DeShields returning after starting 11 games last year and coming off a 2,000-yard season and 18 touchdowns and only 3 picks. And he's going to have plenty of weapons at wide receiver, with Wayne Harris returning after 35 catches for 383 yards and a touchdown, as well as Darius Clark, who is a major weapon in the return game as well. So that actually might help out the Electric Chickens. And the tight end core is the deepest group in this offense, with Hunter Hopperton, Tarek Mulder, and Dakota Taylor. Now, the problem with Kent is that they are not seeing a lot of returning starters, and that's going to hurt both the offensive and the defensive lines. The Flashes have to balance out talent and not for the offense to do all the work like they did last year, because the defense gave up 33.6 points per game last year. That's not going to help you if you want to win the MAC and if you want to keep the wagon wheel. The chemistry has to click, especially with road trips to South Carolina and Ohio State within the first 3 weeks. So, as a fan of a rival, good luck to you guys. And with that, I like to close with a little song. Ken is not a state. Ken is not a state. Birds don't have teeth. Ken is not a state.
All right, Butters, just try to relax. Doing just fine, Butters. Just stay perfectly still now, Butters.
What the fuck am I supposed to say here? The Minutemen didn't just have a bad season. They had the worst season in all of college football. 11.1 points per game. Dead last in the FBS. 38.6 points allowed per game. Also dead last in the FBS. Congratulations. You not only won our Sickos Bowl championship last year, but did the equivalent of firing a cannon at your own balls. The good news? You can't go anywhere else but up at this point. To the surprise of no one, the roster got a factory reset through the transfer portal. Quarterback William Pop Watson gets a legitimate target in Boston College transfer Joe Griffin Jr. And defensively, they brought in several transfers, including Andrew DePeep from the defending national champion Indiana Hoosiers. There's at least a pulse here now. The problem is, fixing UMass is not going to be a one-year project. Hell, it might not even be a 3-year project. Since coming in from the FBS in 2012, the Minutemen have never won more than 4 games in a season. If there is an FBS program I would relegate back to FCS right now, it's your dumbasses. Head coach Hara Simiak inherited a program that needed everything: talent, depth, confidence, culture, and a fucking exorcism. They would have to really try to suck in order to be worse this year, so I think they'll steal 1 game, maybe 2, play with more fight, and at least look like a functional football team most weeks. But this team is nowhere near being taken seriously. Still though, nowhere to go but up. At least you don't have my stupid ass putting the 28-3 curse on you this year. Take the small victories where you can get them, boys. Might be one of the only ones you get. It is a catastrophe! Are you kidding me?
2 hours later.
And looking to throw now on first down. Lets it fly to the wide out. And he's intercepted. And the defense is going to win this game. Crushing any chance of a comeback.
Somehow this program has become one of the MAC's most consistent winners, despite head coach Chuck Martin's career record in Miami being nearly at 500. Because if there's one thing Miami does well, it's finding a way to be very fucking annoying. The Redhawks were back in the MAC championship game last year before running into a buzzsaw known as Western Michigan. And then the offense missed their flight to the Holiday Bowl as they lost 18-3 to Fresno State. 3 points. I've seen Beavis and Butthead score more on the road. The good news is that the quarterback room is absolutely loaded. Thomas Gostkowski is back after taking over when DeQuan Finn rage quit during the season. But Kansas transfer David McComb and Fort Hays State transfer Caleb Heavener are both waiting in the wings in case shit hits the fan. Up front, 4 starters return along the O-line. They're young, but experience is experience, and that should pay off a little bit. However, the running back room is pretty thin outside Deshaunte Jones, though Wisconsin transfer Cade Yakimelli could end up being a nice addition. Receiver? Yeah, it's also thin. Keith Reynolds has upside, but somebody else has to emerge because defenses are eventually going to double team his ass. Speaking of defense, the secondary looks okay. Caleb Martin, Adrian Walker, Jackson Pons, Leo Colombi, plus Iowa State transfer Mason Ellens gives Miami one of the deeper defensive backfields in the MAC. And while the defensive line has some experience doesn't automatically equal talent. Sometimes it just means you've been average for longer. Miami has enough returning pieces to stay near the top of the conference and make some noise. Chuck Martin has successfully built a culture where this program expects to compete every year, and that's something a lot of MAC schools would kill for. The question is whether they have enough guys ready to step up. Depth wins you games in October. Playmakers win you championships in December, and if Miami wants to get back to Detroit and actually win the MAC this time, somebody has to become a star. John Hauser begins his head coaching career after Ohio had to use the emergency ban hammer.
Get the fuck out of here!
Former head coach Brian Smith was fired before the Frisco Bowl following allegations of serious professional misconduct, allegedly drinking alcohol in his office, appearing drunk at events, and cheating on his wife with an undergrad student. This dude thought he would be slick and get his shaft polished at the Ohio Inn, which is a place that is easily seen by athletes' families, school donors, and many more. Just add a butter knife and a mental breakdown, and we got a MAC level Sharon Moore here. Despite all the chaos, the Bobcats still beat UNLV 17-10 to finish 9-4, which ultimately landed Hauser the job. Because everything around them was on fire, yet they still walked away with a bowl trophy. Now that the new coach has the keys, this is the season to see what he can do with the tools he's got. Defensively, the linebackers should be the heartbeat of this team. Michael Molnar was a tackling machine before injuries cut his season short. Charlie Christopher is back after another productive year. and Jack Freese gives them another experienced option in the middle. The defensive line also has some excellent depth, as 6 players are expected to rotate, including Michigan State transfer Tyler Gillison. In the quarterback room, Nick Poulos brings size and experience, while Matt Vezza had reportedly had a strong offseason after transferring in from New Hampshire. Levi Davis also gives Ohio potentially a different look with his ability to both throw and run. The problem, though, is that Ohio lost a ton of skill talent through graduation and the portal. Running back and wide receiver suddenly went from strengths to giant maybes. Defensively, you've got a roster full of transfers that now have to learn how to play together. Sometimes it works, sometimes it's 11 toddlers trying to break out of preschool. Overall, I still think Ohio is going to be competitive. I just don't think they're quite ready to reclaim the top of the conference just yet. The tools are there. Now we find out if John Hauser can build, or if he spends this year trying to figure out where all the goddamn screws went. Welcome to the MAC, Sacramento State. Why?
Dragging our asses halfway around the world, interrupting our lives for what? You ignorant, servile scum! What the fuck are we doing here? Huh?
Who in the fucking blue hell looked at the map of the United States and said, you know where Sacramento State belongs? Fucking Ohio! The Hornets make the jump from the FCS after a 7-5 season, and first-year head coach Alonzo Carter inherits a team that actually has some decent pieces to work with. The defensive line should be their biggest strength. Xavier Williams is a legitimate beast, while Malik Toulis and Miles Bailey give Sacramento State a deep rotation up front. They also got back Jamar Curtis, a preseason FCS All-American last year, who missed time with injury. Carter also attacked the transfer portal pretty aggressively to inject some life into the offense, which they're absolutely going to need to have with this leap to the FBS. So here's the million-dollar question. Can they throw the goddamn ball? Because that's going to determine whether this first season of FBS is decent or a Woodstock 99 level of train wreck. The talent gap between the FCS and the FBS isn't impossible to overcome. I mean, hell, Delaware, Missouri State, and James Madison show that year one can be great for FCS teams. But if your passing game doesn't have its shit together, those MAC defenses will expose you in a hurry. Seriously though, why the MAC? You're in Sacramento, California. Instead of busing to UC Davis to play those bastards, you're doing a reverse Oregon Trail and putting kids on cross-country flights to Ypsilanti, Muncie, DeKalb, Kalamazoo, Mount Pleasant, Athens, and Oxford. Look, I know you bastards were desperate to make the jump to FBS, and they've built one of the better programs over the last several years, but year one FBS is hard enough as it is. Doing it while your players are earning enough air miles to get free trips back to California, that's just cruel. Welcome to the MAC. Please enjoy your 2,300-mile Tuesday night road trip to Buffalo, along with some stale pretzels and peanuts. Mike Jacobs gets to take over one of the MAC's premier programs after an 8-5 season, and immediately got handed one of the weirdest rebuilding jobs in the conference. Because on paper, it looks like regular Toledo. In reality, this is basically an expansion team. The Rockets return one of the better offensive lines in the MAC with 4 experienced starters, including Stephen Gales, who started 11 games at left tackle. Coach Jacobs also did what every new coach loves to do. He raided his old roster. 3 offensive skill players followed him from Mercer, including wide receiver Adjite Dabbs and running backs Altavius Eisen and CJ Miller. Perhaps the biggest bonus? John Allen Richter is back from injuries, which limited him to just 3 games last season. If he stays healthy, Toledo immediately becomes a much more deadly offense. The issue is that on offense and defense, there are nearly 50 new players. Transfers, freshmen, new coaches, new schemes, new faces everywhere, new expectations. You're asking a bunch of strangers to become a cohesive unit before conference play kicks into gear. I mean, it's still Toledo. This program recruits well, develops talent. It expects to compete for the MAC every year, regardless of who's wearing the headset. The offense should be solid enough to keep the Rockets in each game, but the question is, how long is it going to take for that defense to catch up? Because if Coach Jacobs gets this roster to gel by October, Toledo is absolutely capable of making another run at Detroit. If not, the Rockets may spend the first half of the season trying to figure out each other's names before they figure out how to stop a third down. It's It's generally a death sentence. Last year, the Broncos went 10-4, beat Miami of Ohio 23-13 in Detroit to win the MAC, and then turn around and absolutely steamrolled Conference USA champion Kennesaw State 41-6 in the Myrtle Beach Bowl. This program is on a roll, unlike most other programs. They kept the two guys everybody expected to leave. Quarterback Brock Lowry and running back Jalen Buckley both said fuck off to the transfer portal to kick it in Kalamazoo for another go. Lowry developed into one of the conference's best dual-threat quarterbacks, while Buckley ripped off another 1,000-yard rushing season like it was nothing. Western Michigan can be summed up in 3 sentences. Run the football, punch people in the mouth, repeat until the scoreboard is all zeros. Balin Brooks and Avion Chenault both return, giving Lowry 2 proven weapons on the outside. And then there's the offensive line. Chad Schuster is back, and Michigan transfer Ben Roebuck steps in to strengthen an already solid unit. The offense has all the ingredients to be one of the best in the MAC. The defensive secondary is also loaded. Corners Joshua Franklin and Javarius Sims, along with safety Joey Pope, headline one of the conference's better defensive backfields. The defensive line and linebacker room are basically trusting the transfer portal and last year's backups to figure it out on the fly, and that's probably the biggest variable on this whole roster. Oh, and the schedule is brutal to open the year with games against Michigan and Boise State. Talk about being baptized by fire. Still, if Western Michigan survives September without getting too banged up, I think they're right back in the MAC title conversation. They got all the production they need. They got the offensive line to protect the quarterback. They got the secondary declaring a no-fly zone, which means the odds of successfully defending their MAC title are better than good. They don't seem to be like the hunted defending champions this year, but the hunters on a quest for a back-to-back title. This conference is going to be Western Michigan's to lose. Besides them, the rest of the conference is a complete clusterfuck. But I am going to go with the boys down in Athens to make it up to Detroit to dance with the Broncos. May the Maccoon continue to bless us all with more delicious Maction bullshit. Amen.
Getting back to what I left.